Hello, thank you for joining me in this video about metaSort. I'm your host Edwin Braun, and I'm going to show you how we can use metaSort for digital media management, especially for non-image file formats. We are talking about in this video exclusively about our add-on we created for 3D Studio Max users and especially the 3ds Max file format. We will learn how we can use metaSort to help us in organizing our files, finding our files really efficient and fast, and even do some advanced organizing features and functions. Let's jump right into it. Thank you again for watching this video. Please leave a like and subscribe if you like this video. Before we start with metaSort, let me explain the basic principles and the advanced functionality we offer. Let me switch now to my workstation, and we can see here two screens. I want to concentrate right now. Let me just make this full screen so that we have that. metaSort is a server and an application or client application. The server does all the heavy lifting, and the client applications you can install all around in your network. The clients access the server and ask the server for tasks. That's very powerful and flexible, especially for a digital media management system. That means you can have a very powerful server with a GPU, probably 1 or 2 GPU cards, and then you can use all the power you have with your clients, regardless if they have a GPU or not. This is very good and very powerful when you work with large resolution files like large images, for example, or if you want to do other heavy tasks like image manipulations or image categorization. We will talk about that later. So I just wanted to talk about this concept of client and server, which is very flexible and powerful. Let me just bring that down, and now let's have a look at metaSort. You might already know what metaSort is. It's a digital media management tool, and it's meant to organize thousands of photographs or images on your hard drive. When I say thousands, it is really thousands, 100,000, or even a million of images. It only depends on the speed and processor of your server. However, you can also use metaSort to organize your 3D Studio Max files. We created an add-on that's just $5 or so, and you could download it, activate it, and then you have access to the 3ds Max file format. And what does it do? Let me just give you a quick overview of metaSort. We have the database section. The first step always is go to database, create a new database, and then just scan your hard drive, scan your files, scan your network, or even the cloud. It doesn't matter. Everything you can reach inside of your Windows application, you can scan. The next one is the album. And then we have the file manager. It's a very powerful system. The file manager allows you to create and organize files you grab from wherever you want, as I mentioned, from the database. Everything that's scanned in your database can now be reorganized in any way you can imagine. And we'll talk about that in a second. We are going to talk about these three things mainly. Daily shoot is not relevant right now. Let's start with the database. What is a database? We can have, when you unlock the full version of metaSort, you can have as many databases as you want. And you can just create a database by simple right-click, add database. Then you can add your database, specify a source path where you want to save the database, and all the normal stuff. So you specify where you want to create your database. This is this place and spot where everything is centralized and organized. Let's start with the more obvious file types, the image file types. I'll click on the database and it opens up with our selection of files. There we go. We have our database open now with all the files we have. When I hover over a picture, I get the basic information, the most important information about these pictures. As I mentioned, metaSort is meant as a digital media management tool that allows you to organize thousands or hundred thousands of images or photos. However, the great thing is for us 3D Studio Max users, images are very relevant, either as output when I create renderings for a job, when I create renderings for my client. We can do all this and manage this in here. And I'll come to it later. But we can do image conversion, we can scale them them up and down. We can do image manipulation, all kinds of stuff here. Another important thing here that comes to mind is the powerful AI we have and offer. So if you want to categorize your photos, images with AI, it helps you a lot. It automatically scans every image, every texture in this case, as good as the AI can, qualifies and captions this picture. Keep in mind, we intended this as a photographer's tool. However, it also works for textures pretty well. And then we always have the option of manually assigning whatever tag we want for these textures. Let's have a look how this works. So let's say I want to have a wood texture. I would just type up in here in the tag search all textures that have something to do with wood. This could be either a tag, wood, where the AI said, okay, this is wood. Let's just go in here, remove that, and go to the AI. The description, all this part over here, that is actually created by the AI. So I didn't have to type in anything at all. I just let it run. It looks at every single texture, and then it describes what it sees. In this case, wooden shingle roof. So now I can search for anything in the description. So I search for wood. How about shingle? Now we get that. Or all kinds of metal. We can search for metals, all kinds of things that come to mind. Glass, everything. This is the power of metaSort. It scans all your files wherever they are. They could be on the cloud, on your network servers, on a NAS drive, hard disk, wherever you want. It brings them all in, and now you can decide you want to really organize them in a proper way. Let's have another look what we can do with these power of AI organizing and captioning the images. Now I'll open up the album for our textures. And by the way, I took the Autodesk textures that ship with 3D Studio Max and added some of our own textures as well. And we can have here proper textures. We can adjust our zoom level where we want to have the size of the textures, that we can see it right away. And now you can see we have here 4,382 textures. All sorts, all kinds of textures. Wouldn't it be good to just get an overview if I need something, if I need a normal map, for example? And here we see the power of metaSort. I have one option that's called normal maps by tag. So I'll select that and we get the normal maps by tag. So I get all the normal maps. As I mentioned, it's by tag. So what if map or image doesn't have a tag? If the AI, for example, doesn't detect that this is a normal map? Let me just go back and just look at what the system says. We can, anytime we can go to detail info and see what the AI description found. And it just says a blue fabric, but nothing about normal. However, we have normal map, normal, line, shape, color, pattern. So where does normal and normal map come from? Very easy, very simple. Let me just go back to all textures. And here, just for the sake of explaining how this works, let me just pick this wood texture. And we could now tell this texture, hey, you are actually a normal map. So for that, I would go back into our database. The database is the place where everything about data and management happens. We would just go in there. Let me just pick something else here because we had a different order. Let me just go here and show all the pictures. Let's go and pick something that is definitely not a normal map. What I would do is, and it has no description yet, how would we go about getting a description from our AI system? Okay, what we are going to do now is just select our image, our texture. We already have the selection marked files, our AI description, and I would just say, okay, generate a simple AI description. And there we go. We have a simple AI description, a square image showcase close-up view of a dark brown wooden surface. Highlights the natural wood, blah, blah, blah. So now we have this as a tag and we can search for wood. What we also could do, because we have the tag in here as well automatically, we could, as I mentioned before, just say normal. So I'll just go there and say normal, and we go to normal map as well. Now I'll go back and we go into our album, and we will see that this normal maps by tag, you saw from 33, we have 34. So now our wood appears as normal map. This shows the power and flexibility you have. You can create any tag you can think of. You can search for this tag, add it to your search list, and then forever, when you get new stuff, you tag it either manually or automatically, and you get your list automatically created here. The same is true for files like fabric. When I want fabric textures, just have a look. There we have our fabric texture. Here is another fabric texture we could use as a texture map, and so on. Same deal. Tag fabric, either the AI can detect that's a fabric. Great, we don't have to go through 10,000 textures. It will do it automatically for us. What else can we do? As you could see here, we have maps larger than 800. That's my tag. I created this tag. And we have maps larger than 2000. Let me just delete these maps larger than 6K, 6000. So let's say I want to create my own tag like this. I would just go here, right click, add filter, tag search. It will create a new tag. I would right click, edit this filter. Now I can name this filter, and let's say textures larger than 6K. So now we want to filter out all textures that are larger than 6K. And the great thing is, because metaSort is digital media management tool, it knows about width and height. All we need to do is create a standard query like width greater than 6000 or height greater than 6000. In that case, I want either each direction, width or height, greater than 6000. So now we have that. We can start or get our preview and just see if it worked, if it did something. When we go in here, yes, we see the width is 10,000, 6,144, 6,144, 6,720 width, and so on. So we get all the images we want. And now we have textures larger than 6K. And this is how you can set up your personal album and add whatever things you want to search and tag for. Even more powerful, if we don't want to manually edit stuff, and if our AI is too error prone, because textures are usually not really photographs. As I mentioned, our AI is trained on photographs. It works with textures pretty well. But if you don't like that and you have your own system, good for you. Imagine you organize your textures properly by file name. Then, great, you already have the most powerful function here. I created some smart tag by file name group here, and that means I can find all asphalt shingles, even though the application or the AI doesn't know what asphalt shingles are in a texture map. I can find them because of the file name. You can see up there, name asphalt shingles architect. I'm just looking for the file name, which is a very powerful feature, because then I don't have to create any text or anything. If I get a new texture that is properly named asphalt shingles, it will go automatically in this slot. The same for bump maps. Right now we get all the bump maps. Very simple. I look for the keyword in my file name. Here we can see furnishings, fabrics, canvas, bump, PNG. I'm looking for bump and we find that. So this is a very powerful feature. However, it also means you need to be clever about naming your textures. Same for carpet. We can find all carpet textures just by the name. Carpet loops color 10. We will get all the carpets, including the carpet bump maps. Same for flooring. Everything that has flooring in its name, finishes, flooring, and so on. Same for metals. Everything that has metal in its file name, corrugated metal box, rib, blah, blah, blah. Works perfectly, easy, very powerful. Same for normal maps. Everything that has normal in its file name, or norm at the end, we know it's a normal map. And it can be even more powerful. Not only things like normal maps, bump maps, and so on. You can even encode in your file name what it actually is. Let's pick this. The file is called candle flame, or candle in this case. Candle flame, candle flame. We get all our textures really fast, and the great thing is we can access this texture, right click, we can open it right in a paint editor and drag and drop it into 3D Studio Max. It's very powerful and easy to get your textures and use them. So here we have the bump maps again by file name. Same we have here with stone, rocks, ground, pebbles, and rocks, and all this kind of things. And the same for wood. I created all this in a few minutes. Very powerful, very fast to organize your textures. And it doesn't matter if it's 1,000 or 100,000 textures, you will find them and you can organize them and you can sort them by size, whatever you want. And now let's have a look how we can use the power of sorting, but not with images. We can do that easily with images. I started this video with 3D Studio Max files. We have this special add-on you can get just for a few bucks, and it allows you to read in 3D Studio Max files. Switch back to a larger scale. We can now organize exactly like images and pictures 3D Studio Max files. In our database, we have the filter MAX. So that means when we scan a folder, metaSort will only look for Max files, and it will read in all the Max files and all the information we can get out of a 3D Studio Max file. So let's just pick any kind of Max file, let's say this one, and I'll go to the tags and we get a really rich information about this Max file, and we can search for everything we have in this list of object tags. And we automatically use the description as well if there's a description available in 3D Studio Max. Let me just go maybe here to a 3D Studio Max file. Let's see if we find something we can use. Here I just picked standard 3D Studio Max sample scene, and let's have a look. We get all the objects that are in this scene, and we get the description, who is the creator of this file. If you work with 3D Studio Max, use the description method in 3D Studio or comment method in 3D Studio Max. You can put in everything here, and then it is searchable through the database. Very powerful feature. So let's go back and create another thing. So I told you we can search for every tag we have there. So for example, we could search for max version. We could search for objects, individual objects in the scene, and even the renderer. Renderer name equals V-Ray. So let's see if I have a V-Ray sample scene. I have one V-Ray file. How about final render? I have 1,938 final render files, which makes sense because we want to use the best renderer on the market, right? So the same, we could look for other renderers that are available. Scanline renderer. So I get all the files that use the scanline renderer. So this is a powerful tool where we can search really who created this 3D Studio Max file. You can search for the name, or on which machine was it created, which date, and so on. So for that, I go into the album. Why would I need an album for a 3D Studio Max file? Same reason we have it for our images. We can easily access and display, sort, go through all our Max files in really just a few mouse clicks. For example, I want to have all 3ds Max versions that are saved with version 2025. I just click here, get all my 3ds Max 2025 versions. And keep in mind, we are a developer, so we always save for the older version of 3D Studio Max. I had to create some 2026 files, so I can just click there and it found the 2026 files. All 3D Studio Max files we have here are 3,800 files, and we can even search for things like show me every Max file using compression. You know, you can turn on in 3D Studio Max file compression. There you can search for it. those files have all compression on. So you could do the other search around, which files don't use compression. Or how about we search for files that have more than 15 lights in it, or that have more than 100 objects in it, including lights, bones, and whatever. This is a very powerful feature, especially if you have to organize and know which Max version you're looking for. Now let's go on and check out something else. How about we search by characters? Let's say I'm looking for a scene where there's a male character in it. I can just search for every scene that uses a character. Show me scenes where there's a monster in it. Show me a scene where there's a woman in it, female. Very easy, very fast to find among those many thousands of files the ones I need. I can search by material used, so we store which materials are used in a scene. If you have a special material name, you can search for it. We can search for marble, metal, scenes that use the metal keyword for materials, and wood. And the same for objects. We can search for objects, and it's looking for the object names. So if you are disciplined and have a proper naming convention, you can search for bicycles, which uses bicycles here, candle, scenes that have a candle, scenes that have a chair in it, motorcycles, scenes with ships in it. Whatever you have in your 3D Studio Max scene, you can find it instantly and just right-click open and it will open it in 3D Studio Max. Or how about scenes with vehicles? It's always annoying. Where did I have this Max scene with whatever? The yellow truck, the red truck, the blue truck, Ford, the van. Instantly you'll find your 3D Studio Max scenes. And now even more powerful, we can search scenes by plugins used. And that's the most powerful feature we have. It allows you, show me all scenes that use biped. Then you get your character animation where biped is inside or used in the scene. The same, show me all scenes using bones. And here all bones manually from cat or biped, everything that uses a bone will be listed here. Or how about special plugin cat? We can search for that. Show me all scenes that use a photometric light. Instantly I get all scenes with a photometric light. Or how about all scenes that use the physical camera? And we could differentiate between physical camera from Max, V-Ray, file render, whatever we want, we can search by plugin. And the same, show me all scenes that use thinking particles. There we go. We have all scenes with thinking particles. And even more important, we can search for the renderer used. So how often is it that you know you have a setup that is so special and fast and good, but you don't find it anymore? Here we can say, okay, show me all scenes using the art renderer, all scenes using Arnold renderer, default scanline renderer, even missing renderer, and that's a very powerful feature as well. Those are the scenes that have no renderer applied or the renderer is no longer in existence, which means, for example, Mental Ray that was removed some time ago. You can find all these 3D Studio Max files that still have some old renderer stuff in it and fix it. Show me all scenes with Final Render in it. Show me all scenes with Final Tune. All the cartoon and line rendering stuff. Mental Ray, also very important. I just mentioned Mental Ray was removed from 3D Studio Max. This is an easy way to fix these scenes. Just right-click open, right-click open, right-click open, fix it, assign a renderer, fix the materials, you're done. Show me all scenes with V-Ray. This is a really powerful function and feature that allows you to get a grip of your immense collection of 3D Studio Max materials. And I'll tell you, it's changing how you work. So that was the album method where we can easily find the stuff we want to find. How about reorganizing and getting everything ready for backup or archiving our stuff? To create an archive, it's really a daunting task. You need to know which materials. I told you, we get a list of the materials used in a scene. We need to find all the bits and pieces over the network. What we can do now is very simple and very easy, use the file manager to organize our 3D Studio Max files. So here we are in the file manager. The file manager is meant to help you in organizing your files. In our database, as I mentioned, we have all the 3D Studio Max files you have on your network, in the cloud, on a hard drive, wherever you have that doesn't matter. And now we want to properly organize it into one place and archive this. Let me show you how this works. How about we start from scratch? Let me just click here where it says directory filters, and I'll remove all the filters. So how does it work? How can we organize our images or 3D Studio Max files in that case? We have our display filters, this filter, which has outdated Max files. Those are 3D Studio Max files that are older than 2008. 3D Studio Max changed the way it versioned their releases. From 2008 on, it used the year method where it says 2008, 2009, 10, 11, you know the deal. So very confusing because before it was Max 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. However, it doesn't matter. It's not our place to complain about that. I'll choose the modern yearly method of versioning. We have 3,300 files and now I want to organize them. Usually you would go right click, add filter, then you can decide some stuff. It could be confusing. So for our 3D Studio Max users, we have prepared a template where we have a filter tree where we say 3ds Max sort, and it automatically adds a predefined sort method. You might agree with it or not, and we are going to change it. The first thing we have here is 3ds Max files. That's our subfolder. So it's called temp. We chose the path, target path is our JTemp file. And then we have a subfolder, 3ds Max files, and then it goes on. That's kind of an example how we organize it. I don't like for now these many folders and subfolders. I don't care if the files are compressed or not. I don't care about the renderer type. I don't want a separate folder for renderer. I'll remove that as well. The only thing I want is a subfolder, and for sure I want an extra subfolder per Max version. So for each Max version, 2010, 2022 and so on, I want its own subfolder. And we can see that we have now our subfolder 3ds Max files, 3ds Max version, and then poly count. And that's kind of a little bit a trick, but it shows how powerful the system is. I'm creating 3 folders. I'm creating a folder that has faces from 6,000 to 10,000, faces more than 10,000, and faces below 6,000 polygons. We get now 3D Studio Max 2020, for example, and a polygon count, 3 folders for polygon counts. And for now, just to make sure we can do it over and over again and very fast, I just say, okay, I want all files based on the display filter, and I want to create a symbolic link. That means right now we're just creating a link. The original files are not affected. The original files are not copied or moved. I could choose copy the files. That would be like a backup. We can copy all these files in the database from wherever they come into this one place, or we just move them, physically move them from the place, from the cloud to the hard drive, and it's deleted on the other side. However, for now, I just want a symbolic link. Don't touch the files. Just create a symbolic link. So now what we are going to do is bring up the folder. So we see here the folder temp 3ds Max files, and I'll press the generate button and we'll have a look. It asks me, okay, I'm going to create 3,383 symbolic links. And I say, okay, go ahead, do it. And here we are. So you might wonder, why does it say 2015.0, 2026.0, 2017.0, and so on? Autodesk brings out service packs, and sometimes they just number it point something. They did that in 2017. We have a 0.9, and 2014 as well. That's just how they do it, and we'll just follow along. So let's have a look at 2020, for example. So we have these 3 folders, as I mentioned. The folder 6,000 to 10,000, below less than 6,000, and more than 10,000. Now when we go in, Those scenes are all more than 10,000 polys. And you might wonder, why is it 0 kilobyte? That's the amazing part about symbolic links. You can do your organization, test it out, try it out, and you can use these files as they were actual files in that place. When we double click this file, it will open 3D Studio Max and load this Max file. It's a link to the original file wherever this file might be. We can right click properties and then we can get the real file path, the target here, and we can open it in the original path and so on. So that's the power of these symbolic links. Very efficient because it's 0 kilobytes, very small, but still you can organize your files. Really recommend have a look at metaSort. We have a free version of metaSort that allows you to just try out with 500 images and you can try out everything. And it's cheap. It's so freaking cheap. Just check it out. And we put a link in the video. Thanks so much for watching this video today. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into the technology of photography. See you in the next one. Goodbye.